Today, I want to talk about this man right here. Y'all remember this guy, right? Jon Stewart. Not that guy. No, 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 no. Or that guy. Not Beard Man. Jon Stewart, host of The Daily Show from, I believe, the mid 90s to 2016. Virtually right before Trump became the official Republican nominee and eventually the president. To say that I was a Jon Stewart fan is really understating it. I absolutely worshipped this man and continue to do so, really. I watch his old Daily Show clips religiously. And more than that, I love watching his public appearances on Fox News, for example. Have you guys seen the debates between him and Bill O'Reilly? Look, Bill O'Reilly's a piece of shit, and he's even worse than we originally thought. But something about them as a duo is so likable. It actually makes you like Bill O'Reilly, which is a dark power to have for Jon Stewart. That's a dark power. But he used it wisely. You know, even though he was obviously liberal, obviously left leaning, his attacks that he made on his show were always about something more than any one ideology. It was always about the media. It was always about, the political process itself, how it was hindered by partisanship and just political games. He called out anybody. He was never afraid to take shots at people on his side, quote unquote. Um, he better than anyone just captured the insanity and the frustration of our modern era of politics and the media. And so he left, and it was a crushing blow. Trevor Noah is fine. I I actually think he's starting to come into his own, definitely finding his own identity as host of the Daily Show. But Jon Stewart will continue to be the gold standard as far as I'm concerned. Now we're going to talk about another guy. Um, we're going to talk, talk about Mr. Tucker Carlson. Here he is. Y'all probably know Tucker. He always has that baffled look on his face, like he realizes that what he's saying sounds stupid as soon as it comes out of his mouth, right? But it's not like he can walk it back. So he's got to double down, right? Now Tucker Carlson right now is a Fox News anchor, but he had a long career before that. And he was always conservative, but he was always seen as uh, there was something more appealing about Tucker Carlson in his early years. He was even on Dancing with the Stars. That's how much of a genuine celebrity he was. And I actually do enjoy watching Tucker Carlson. Um, I mean, I don't agree with the things he says, and by that I mean I think he's a crypto fascist, but I enjoy his media persona, his media personality. He's made me laugh a couple times, um, intentionally and otherwise. And oddly enough, he says a lot of things that actually overlap pretty hardcore with far left ideologies. I know the populism thing is a shtick, but he actually does make valid points, right? It's a kind of, broken clock is right twice a day situation, but he's enough of a populist to at least be anti-war. He was against the Iraq War. He's called out predatory credit card companies, and occasionally when he's not talking about immigration, he will say things that I agree with, but for the most part, I think he's a vile, heinous human being. Now, why are we talking about these two characters? Well, because once upon a time they did meet. They did meet in a now legendary appearance by Jon Stewart on Tucker's first show, or one of his first shows, Crossfire. Now, it's a legendary appearance. We're not reacting to that. Instead, we're going to be talking about what has to be. This is the worst take. Somebody did a reaction video called Tucker Carlson Embarrasses Jon Stewart. I couldn't even spell John right. On Crossfire. So if you know anything about this appearance, that's like, I don't know. What could be a worse take than that? That's like saying Herbert Hoover embarrasses FDR in 1932 election. Like, could you be more backwards? Could you get it more wrong? Now, this is not a partisan opinion of mine that Jon Stewart embarrassed Tucker Carlson. Jon Stewart criticized Tucker so perfectly on Tucker's own show that he literally got it canceled. He literally got it canceled. That's how devastating. Let's adjust the mic here. That's how devastating Jon's attacks were on Tucker's show. And that's not an opinion. That's a fact. If you think that Tucker... Nope, not right now. If you think that Tucker was... If the whole situation is unfair to him, okay, you're fighting an uphill battle. Because smart man Tucker Carlson gave some of the weakest defenses to Jon Stewart's attacks. And I guess this guy, whoever he is, spoiled rotten TV. I don't know if he's going to make the case that Tucker was treated unfairly by the media and by his own boss. Like, when you say the media, you're talking about literally the people who had hired Tucker and had been paying him. Like, to humiliate Tucker in front of Tucker's boss, that's essentially what happened. And if that boss had a liberal bias to begin with, why did he hire Tucker? Why would he give Tucker such a huge platform? So, anyways, enough. Let's watch and break it down.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Spoil Around TV. Today I'm doing a reaction to I guess you can call it a face-off between two talk show hosts. It's Tucker Carlson going up against Jon Stewart. And I don't know if you know who these people are. You should definitely know who Jon Stewart is. You probably don't know his name, but you've seen his face.
You don't know his name.
He was the host of a show called The Daily Show, which was pretty much like a parody nightly news show on Comedy Central. It usually came on after South Park, if I'm remembering it correctly. And he's definitely a little bit more well known as far as the younger generations go. Tucker Carlson is the host of a show called Tucker Carlson Tonight or Tucker Tonight, and you guys probably haven't, especially if you're like my age or younger, you probably haven't been paying attention to Tucker unless you're really, really into news. But he is gaining.
Really? He's a big deal, unfortunately.
Popularity. People are making compilation videos about him right now, or have started to a lot more recently, especially after Donald Trump won.
By the way, I hope you guys can hear this. I don't know if it's just this guy's audio or what, but I'm really struggling here. So hopefully this comes out okay.
Um, and he's definitely he's definitely not someone you want to debate if you don't have all your facts correct. Um, he's definitely like this guy. He's not afraid of tension. He's not afraid to just go all out. He's not.
You do not want to debate Tucker Carlson because Tucker Carlson is a liar. He is an unabashed liar. Okay, maybe that's unfair. Maybe he's just consistently wrong in ways that perfectly fit his narrative. So, a perfect example. Tucker Carlson cited a study by Robert Putnam, a sociologist, to prove that diversity does not help us. It does not make us stronger. apparently Robert Putnam in a study said that diversity doesn't really lead to any immediate benefit to society. So Tucker cites that constantly because Robert Putnam is an established and credible figure in sociology. But if you go to the study, what's cool is if you read like literally the next line of that study, it'll say, but in the long term, diversity leads to a net benefit. Literally, the fucking sentence after the thing that Tucker's talking about. So Tucker is a shameless liar, and yes, he is not afraid of tension. He's not afraid of completely condescending to his guests and asking them baseless questions. I remember one time he said, well, if immigration's so good, how many immigrants do we need to bring into the country, to boost the economy? What, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million? And the person was like, that's not a real question. So, yeah, don't debate Tucker. You really don't want to debate Tucker Carlson.
He's not afraid to be a person that people demonize if they don't agree with what he says. And I'm more than certain this is going to be about something that Jon Stewart said. And he's going to be like, why'd you say this? And it's going to go from there. So we're just going to get right into it.
Meanwhile, the president's challenger was also in New York, also facing some difficult questions.
How do you stay in shape?
Do you eat something?
Do you have a routine? Do you run in the
It's like Nerf Crossfire.
Welcome back to Crossfire. As both of our loyal viewers, of course, know, our show is all about left versus white, black versus white, paper versus plastic.
Did he just say left versus white? Like, not good, bro. Oh, by the way, there was another guy on Crossfire. It's always talked about as Jon Stewart versus Tucker Carlson, but there was another guy who is a liberal. Like, the whole concept of Crossfire, in case you don't know, because Jon Stewart got it canceled, is you have a conservative and a liberal, and they bring on guests, right, who could be anywhere in that spectrum. And the idea is that it's a civil, honest debate between these two sides of an ideology. And usually the guest is like caught in the middle, like a crossfire. But it's really about a debate between the liberal host and the conservative host. So that's another thing. If the idea is that Jon Stewart is just, he hates conservatives, this was totally a liberal media taking out Tucker Carlson. Well, there was a liberal on the show, and Jon Stewart is going to criticize them both, not just Tucker.
Red Sox against the Yankees. That's why every day we have two guests with their own unique perspective on the news. But today, Crossfire is very different. We have just one guest. He's either the funniest smart guy on TV or the smartest funny man. We'll find out which in a minute. But he's certainly an Emmy Award winner, the host of Comedy Central's Daily Show, and the co-author of the new mega bestseller, America the Book, A Citizen's Guide to Inaction, at your bookstores everywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Crossfire, Jon Stewart.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you to say. Now what? Can I say something very quickly? What?
How long before this guy says anything, by the way? If you pick a reaction video, like a video to react to, I'm just saying you might want to pick something that has more for you to react to, but that's just one man's opinion.
Why do we have to fight? The two of you? Can't we just say something nice about John Kerry right now?
I like John. I care about John Kerry.
And something about President Bush.
I like that both
He'll be
sides.
unemployed soon. I failed
See, I made the effort anyway.
No, actually, I knew Bush in Texas a little bit, and the truth is, he's actually a great guy. He's not a very good president. He's actually a very good person. I don't think you should have to hate to oppose somebody, but it makes it easier.
Why do you argue? The two of you? I hate to see it.
We enjoy it.
Let me ask you a question.
Wait, let me ask you a question first.
All right.
Is John Kerry really the best? I mean, I think, John Kerry's not
Is
a
he the
terrible
best?
guy.
Like,
Is he
I thought Lincoln was good.
Is he the best the Democrats can do?
Is he the best the Democrats
Yeah,
can
this
do?
year.
I'd always thought
Out of the whole field.
in a democracy.
Total sidetrack, but would be remiss if I didn't bring it up. The rhetoric surrounding John Kerry in 2004 is so fucking close to the way we talk about Joe Biden Like, look, you might not be the most, exciting. You might not rally the most people, but come on. We need someone who can defeat George W. Bush. We need someone who can defeat him. The most electable. The most electable. And look, we don't know that his opponents in the primaries would have beaten Bush. I mean, it was a close election in 2004. So I understand it. And a lot of it came down to the Bush administration lying about John Kerry's war record. But I'm just saying the fact that they're having the exact same conversation about John Kerry that we have right now about Joe Biden. Be warned, y'all. Be warned.
And again, I don't know. I've only lived in this country. That there's a process, what they call them primaries.
Right.
And they don't always go with the best, but they go with whoever won. So is he the best? According to the process.
Right, but of the 9 guys running, who do you think was best? Do you think he was the best? Most impressive?
The most impressive?
Yeah.
I thought Al Sharpton was very impressive. I enjoyed his way of speaking. I think oftentimes the person that knows they can't win is allowed to speak the most freely, and because otherwise shows with titles.
Yeah, that was Bernie to me in 2016. Not that Bernie couldn't have won. I think he kind of took the approach that he wasn't going to win, or at least when you are really driving at it, like I have to win no matter what. Yeah, that's going to change your rhetoric. But Bernie was about the message first. And he took the approach that it doesn't matter if I win. If I can just push the Overton window to the left, that's all that matters. If I can detoxify and destigmatize the concept of democratic socialism, that is what my campaign is about.
Such as Crossfire, or Hardball, or I'm going to kick your ass, or we'll jump on it. In many ways, it's funny, and I made a special effort to come on the show today because I have privately amongst my friends and also in occasional newspapers and television shows mentioned this show as being bad. And I felt that wasn't fair, and I should come here and tell you that it's not so much that it's bad as it's hurting America. So I wanted to come here today and say...
Wait.
Here's just what I wanted to tell you guys.
Yeah.
Look at how shocked that guy is. Like, his eyes is like, what? Tucker Carlson? You're talking about Tucker Carlson. You're saying he's hurting America? The man who defended the 17-year-old murderer? Who killed 2 people in Kenosha? You're telling him that he's hurting America? How could you do that? I mean, come on, dog. You did. Crossfire ended in 2002. Have you watched the show? Why do you care?
Stop. Stop hurting America.
Okay, now,
and come work for us, because we, as the people...
How do you pay?
The people, not well.
I didn't see it, I'm sure.
But you can sleep at night. See, the thing is, we need your help. Right now, you're helping the politicians and the corporations, and we're left out there to mow our lawns.
You just said we're too rough on them when they make mistakes.
No, you're not too rough on them. You're part of their strategies. You're partisan, what do you call it, hacks.
Wait, Sean, let me tell you something valuable that I think we do that I'd like to see you do.
Something valuable?
Yeah, no, it's
I
nice
would like to hear it.
and I'll tell you, when politicians come on,
yeah,
it's nice to get them to try and answer the question. And in order to do that, we try and ask them pointed questions. I want to contrast our questions with some questions you asked John Kerry.
If you want to compare your show to a comedy show, you're more than welcome to.
Here's the point.
Okay, I know where this is going to go. The biggest criticism that Jon Stewart faced, at least from the right and some other media circuits, is that he benefited from a double standard. Obviously, he is a comedian hosting a parody news show, so he was not held up to the standard that we should be holding up our real journalists, right? And they thought that was a double standard, but he's a satirist. He's not trying to do your job for you guys. He is trying to point out how you are failing in your position. You know, that's what satire is about, right? Nobody, like Mark Twain was a brilliant satirist. Nobody said, well, how come you're not fixing the problem, huh? Why don't you go down to Congress and fucking figure it out? Like, a satirist's purpose is to sit from the sidelines and observe it from a more, a position where they can really see everything, right? They're not directly involved. They can like see it from a more objective position, and that's how they process, current events and turn it into comedy that provides insight into what's really going on. Jon Stewart is not trying to do the news's job for them. The reason that we took Jon Stewart so seriously is because he was so brilliant in his criticisms that it started to feel like he was more of a legitimate news person or had a more credible voice than people like Tucker Carlson.
If that's your goal,
no, it's not.
I wouldn't aim for us. I'd aim for Seinfeld.
Here's the problem.
That's a very good show.
Kerry won't come on this show. He will come on your show. Let me suggest why he wants to.
Well, we have civilized discourse.
Well, here's an example of civilized discourse. Here are 3 of the questions you asked, John.
Yeah.
You have a chance to interview the Democratic nominee. You ask him questions such as, quote, how are you holding up? Is it hard not to take the attacks personally?
Yeah.
Have you ever flip-flopped, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah.
Didn't you feel like you got the chance to interview the guy? Why not ask him a real question instead of just suck up to him?
Yeah, how are you holding up is...
I'm a cat with a blackboard, looking for something...
Damn ads. I know Jon Stewart's going to point this out, but how are you holding up is not a suck up. I mean, it's not, some Walter Cronkite, Mike Wallace shit. No, it's funny, right? Like, how you holding up? You say to the Democratic candidate. Jon Stewart had a lot of interviews on his show, and they would turn into real debates sometimes, but his job was still to be a comedian, to provide a comic effect. But through his comedy, he provided an insight, right? Like, through that question, we understand John Kerry is not doing so well. He's having a rough time with this election. So it was still informative. And, his purpose, Jon Stewart's purpose, is not to pose a fucking gotcha question. Oh, turn off the sound, sorry.
He was giving him a hot stone massage.
It sounded that way.
As we were doing it. It's interesting to hear you talk about my responsibility to the, I didn't realize that.
The guy still hasn't said anything. We're 7 minutes in. He still hasn't. I mean, do I have to speed this up even more? How long have we been going on? Okay. I might have to speed it up. Yeah. Okay.
And maybe this explains quite a bit.
The opportunity
is that the news organizations looked at Comedy Central for their cues on integrity. So what I would suggest is, when you talk about you're holding politicians' feet to the fire, I think that's disingenuous. I think you're...
How are you holding up? I mean, come on.
No. I don't... But my role isn't... I don't
you
think...
can ask him a real question, don't you think? Instead of saying,
I don't think I have to. By the way, I also asked him, were you in Cambodia? But I didn't really care. Because I don't care. I think it's stupid. Well, but my point is this. If your idea of confronting me is that I don't ask hard-hitting enough news questions, we're in bad shape, fellas.
We're here to love you, not confront you.
No, but what I'm saying is this. I'm not. I'm here
Look at how embarrassed Jon Stewart is. Like, look at the shame that Tucker Carlson is bringing on the man. I don't even know how Jon Stewart's career survived this. It is so humiliating. My lighting is shit, by the way. All right.
Confront you because we need help from the media, and they're hurting us. And it's the idea is...
If the indictment, let me get this straight. If the indictment is, and I have seen you say this, that Crossfire reduces everything, as I said in the intro, to left, right, black, white.
Yes.
Well, it's because, see, we're a debate show. It's like saying,
No, that'd be great. I would love to see a debate show.
In a 24-hour day where we have each side on as best we can.
No, that would be great.
And have them fight it out.
To do a debate would be great, but that's like saying pro wrestling is a show about athletic competition.
I think you're a good comedian. I think your lectures are boring. Let me ask you a question on the news.
Now, this is theater. I mean, it's obvious. How old are you?
35.
And you wear a bow tie.
Yeah, I do.
So this is...
I know. You're right. Let me just...
Even the guy, like, he watched this video, he watched this entire video, and still wrote out that title. Oh, no. Yeah, Tucker Carlson embarrasses Jon Stewart. Listen, guys. After this show, Tucker stopped wearing a bow tie. He stopped. Look, you look it up. Okay. Guess, is there a bow tie? Is there? No. No, there's only a tie-tie. Tie-tie? Oh my god. I have too many of these open. Is that it? Yes. Yeah, tie-tie, bow tie.
And listen, I'm not suggesting that you're not a smart guy, because those are not easy to tie. But the thing is that you're doing theater. when you should be doing debate, which would be great.
No, it's
not honest. What you do is not honest. What you do is partisan hackery. And I'll tell you
You
why
have
I
John
know
Kerry
it.
on your show, and you sniff his throne, and you're accusing us of partisan hackery?
Absolutely.
You've got to be kidding, man.
You're on CNN. The show that leads into me is puppets making crank phone calls. What is wrong with you?
Well, I'm just saying, there's no reason for you. You had this marvelous opportunity not to be the guy's buttboy, to go ahead and be his buttboy.
Yes,
That's
no,
embarrassing.
I was absolutely his buttboy. I was so...
What did he say? You have to pause the video while you react if your audio is shit. Dude.
You would not believe what he ate 2 weeks ago. You know, the interesting thing that I have is you have a responsibility to the public discourse, and you fail miserably.
I think.
You need to go to one. The thing that I want to say is, when you have people on for just knee-jerk, reactionary talk...
Wait, I thought you were going to be funny. Come on. Be funny.
No, I'm not going to be your monkey. Go ahead. I watch your show every day, and it kills me.
I can tell you love it.
It's so painful to watch. You know, because we need what you do. This is such a great opportunity you have here to actually get politicians
really Jon
off
Stewart?
of their marketing and strategy. Yeah, it's someone who wants...
What? All Tucker Carlson can say at this point is, I thought you were going to be funny. I thought this was going to be funny. What? Tucker Carlson is getting his ass handed to him by a comedian. The fact that Jon Stewart happens to be a smart man with a lot of insight doesn't change his role or his position, right? He is a comedian. If he took this approach in CNN, honestly, it would still be preferable. But, like I'm saying, if he were a real newscaster, but he acted exactly the same, yeah, okay. But I don't even know. Like, that would still be preferable. I have no idea what is so different about the questions Jon Stewart asked John Kerry than the media was already at. I guess that's the idea, that Jon Stewart is acting like them, but he's parodying them. Like it's a satire. I mean, I've not watched Jon Stewart's interview with John Kerry, but just from the clip that they showed of Jon Stewart making fun of those other reporters versus the questions that, you know, like, how are you holding up? It seems like he was making fun of that, making fun of the weak questions.
Is your show and cannot take it anymore. I just can't.
What's it like to have dinner with you? It must be excruciating. Do you like lecture people like this? Or do you come over to their house and sit and lecture them? You know, they're not doing the right thing, that they're missing their opportunities, evading their responsibilities?
If I think they are.
Look, I wouldn't want to eat with you, man. That's horrible.
I know, and you won't. But the thing I want to get to...
We did promise naked pictures this
Yeah, we did. Let's get to those.
Why can't we just talk... Please, I beg of you guys.
I think you watch too much Crossfire. We're going to take a quick break.
No. Look,
hold
please.
on. We've got commercials.
Please.
Next,
Please stop.
In the rapid fire.
Please
Hopefully
stop.
he'll be here. We hope. We think. And then, did U.S. soldiers refuse an order in Iraq? Will Blitzer has the latest on this investigation right after the break.
I'm Wolf Blitzer in Washington. Coming up at the top of the hour, the Pentagon investigates a report that U.S. soldiers refused to go on a date.
So when this guy says reaction, he means literally that he's just going to point the camera at his face as he makes expressions in reaction to what he's saying. Like, I guess there's no commentary. I don't know the guy's channel.
Dangerous mission in Iraq. We'll have details. In medical news, the FDA prescribes a strongly worded label on antidepressant drugs. And why some experts think the flu vaccine shortage is a grim warning about U.S. vulnerability to bioterrorism. All those stories much more only minutes away on Wolf
I used
Blitzer
to like
Reports.
Jon Stewart,
Now back to
but
Crossfire.
I used to watch G.I. Joe too.
Welcome back to Crossfire. We're talking to Jon Stewart, who was just lecturing us on moral inferiority. John, you're bumming us out. Tell us, what do you think of the Bill O'Reilly vibrator story?
No.
I'm sorry? I don't.
Oh, okay.
What do you think?
Let me change the subject then.
Where's your moral outrage on this?
I don't have any.
I know.
Which candidate do you suppose would provide you better material?
I'm sorry?
Which candidate do you suppose would provide you better material if he won?
Mr. T. I think he'd be funniest.
Why would you have a stake in it that way? Not just a citizen, but as a professional comic?
Right. Which I hold to be much more important than as a citizen.
Well, there you go. Who would provide you better material, do you suppose?
I don't really know. It's kind of not how we look at it. We look at the absurdity of the system provides us the most material, and that is best served by sort of the...
And now, right there is the brilliant thing about Jon Stewart. It was never about one person. It was never about George W. Bush. Like, he recognized that politicians were let's say, a symptom of the problem. It was about the way the system was working. It's about the absurdity in just how partisan operations worked, right? And that's what made him so appealing to Americans as a whole, not just leftists, Like, he could point out, like, I remember one bit he did where there was a sex trafficking bill, a bill meant to provide relief for sex traffickers that was stuck in the Senate, right? Like, how could that get stuck in the Senate? Because the Republicans slipped in this amendment to the bill that would not allow any of that relief money to go that would not let any of that money go towards abortions for these victims. And that's why it was stuck in the Senate, which of course is anti-Roe v. Wade, right? Like, that should be a perfectly acceptable thing to put in a sex traffic victim relief bill. And Jon Stewart covered that. But not only was he mad at the Republicans, but he was mad at the Democrats, because the Democrats didn't even read the bill. They didn't even know that amendment was in there before it was actually put on the floor for a vote. And that's how it got stuck, because this bill had already gone through and they didn't even read it. So he just saw that situation. He didn't decide to pick on one person. It was about how the system was failing us and how these politicians were failing the system.
The theater of it all, which, by the way, thank you both, because it's been helpful.
But if Kerry gets elected, is it good? I mean, you said you're voting for him. You obviously support him. It's clear. Will it be harder for you to mock his administration if he becomes president?
Now, why would it be harder?
Because
the only way it would be harder is if his administration is less absurd than this one. So in that case, if it's less absurd, then yeah, I think it'd be harder. But, it'd be hard to top this group. I mean, quite frankly, in terms of absurdity and their world matching up to the one that, it was interesting. President Bush was saying, John Kerry's rhetoric doesn't match his record. But I've heard President Bush describe his record. His record doesn't match his record. So, I don't worry about it in that respect. But let me ask you guys again a question, because we talked a little bit about, you're actually doing honest debate and all that. But after the debates, where do you guys head to? Right afterwards.
Submission.
Right after that.
Right, home.
Spin Alley.
Home?
No, Spin Alley.
What are you talking about? You mean at these debates?
Yeah, you go to Spin Alley, the place called Spin Alley. Now, don't you think that for people watching at home, that's kind of a drag, that you're literally walking to a place called Deception Lane? Like, it's Spin Alley. It's don't you see that's the issue I'm trying to talk to you guys?
I actually believe, I have a lot of friends who work for President Bush. I went to college with
Neither of us was ever
they,
in the
they, no, I went to Larry King. They actually believe what they're saying. They want to persuade you. That's what they're trying to do by spinning. But I don't doubt for a minute these people who work for President Bush, who I disagree with and everything, they believe that stuff, John. This is not a lie or deception at all.
I think they believe in
Just like I believe in my guys.
I think they believe President Bush would do a better job, and I believe the Kerry guys believe President Kerry would do a better job. But what I believe is they're not making honest arguments. So what they're doing is, in their mind, the ends justify the means.
Yeah, look, if politicians were being honest in these debates and in their public appearances, they wouldn't need Spin Alley. That's the point Jon Stewart is making, right? Like, you wouldn't need a place to seek refuge after a debate, so you could take a situation and try to spin it to find the way it can actually benefit you, right? Like, perfect example in our Democratic primary debates, Tulsi Gabbard calls out Kamala Harris's record when it comes to criminal justice reform, which is terrible. In the debate, Kamala Harris had no defense. She was absolutely unprepared for it. It was a devastating moment for her. I would not be surprised if that's what killed her campaign. But after the debate, Kamala Harris goes backstage and she says, well, why would I take criticism from someone who supports Hamas? Or Assad, the dictator of Syria. Now, regardless of what you think about Tulsi Gabbard, and if you think she really is an asset to Assad, that doesn't change the criticism that Tulsi Gabbard made of Kamala Harris. But Kamala Harris gets to go backstage to these reporters and completely rechange the narrative. If politicians were honest, we wouldn't need the backstage reporters. We wouldn't need Spin Alley, because the arguments would stand on their own and we would be able to evaluate them. But no, they get to control the narrative. They get to completely change course of the national discussion. And that's the point Jon Stewart is making. And I don't even know how you could object to that. If you honestly care about making this country a better place, that is something you should be fine with.
I do think you're more fun on your show. That's my opinion.
Okay,
Jon Stewart goes one-on-one with his fans.
You're as big a dick on your show as you are on any show.
Now you're getting into it. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Eastern.
Welcome back to Crossfire. We are joined by Comedy Central's Jon Stewart, host of The Daily Show, and author of #1 bestseller, America the Book, A Citizen's Guide to Democracy in Action. Some questions from our audience. Yes, sir, what's your name?
Hi, my name's David. I'm from Boston.
Hi, David.
My question is, what do you think the hump on GW's back during the debate was?
Say it again?
What do you think the hump on George's back during the debate was?
The hump on his back?
Oh, you're not familiar? This is a conspiracy here. Can I take this one?
Yeah, please.
It was nothing. His suit was puckering. A lot of people believe he had one of these in his ear. If he was being fed lines by Karl Rove, he would not have been so inarticulate, guys. It's a myth. It's not true. It's a huge myth out on the West about this.
Mr. Jon Stewart.
Yes, ma'am.
Renee from Texas. Why do you think it's hard or difficult or impossible for politicians to answer a straight, simple question?
I don't think it's hard. I just think that nobody holds their feet to the fire to do it, so they don't have to. They get to come on, shows that don't.
Were they too easy on them?
Yeah.
Not easy. How you holding up? Again, by saying we were too hard on people and too difficult or contentious.
I think you're, yeah.
All right, Jon Stewart, come back soon.
Jon Stewart, good of you to join us. Thank you very much. The book is America.
It does feel like that moment. I can see what Jon Stewart was trying to say. It's like he couldn't find the right words because the idea is right. I mean, the news can be very contentious to politicians for sure, but not in an honest way that actually produces like some kind of insight or some kind of progress in terms of our understanding of that person. It's about scandals, right? It's about all of these things that can make for the best theatrics, right? The best spectacle and the best ratings. So it's not that they're too easy on them or too hard on them. It's about what issues are they actually focusing on? What do they actually think the American people should be hearing about? I mean, Bill Clinton's affair with Monica Lewinsky is not as important as his gutting of welfare, as his criminal justice reform, as his bombings of like I don't know how many different countries. Like those are things that the media should have been really hitting him on, but no, they decided to hit him on Monica Lewinsky. That's the thing they decided really was the defining characteristic of Bill Clinton's administration. So that's the point Jon Stewart is making. And it's like he couldn't find the right words. That's when Tucker Carlson kind of jumps in. He's like, he saw his opportunity, kind of made a little jab at him there. Jon Stewart kind of knows like, okay, I didn't really articulate myself the best. And, and there you have it. But overall, it's still clearly Jon Stewart's victory, right? Like, is there any doubt about that? Well, let's see. Maybe this guy will actually give us his opinion.
The Citizens Guide to Democracy in Action. From the left, I am Paul Begala.
And from the right, I'm Tucker Carlson. Have a great weekend. See you Monday.
Great. Oh, man. Oh, man.
Happening now, an extraordinary.
Wow.
Thank you very much. The book is America.
Jon Stewart.
Yes, ma'am.
Renee from Texas. Why do you think it's hard or difficult or impossible for politicians to answer a straight, simple question?
I don't think it's hard. I just think that nobody holds their feet to the fire to do it, so they don't have to. They get to come on.
For over 45 years.
Yeah, so he is going to focus on that one thing at the end there. And I guess that's going to be why Tucker Carlson embarrasses Jon Stewart on Crossfire.
Shows that don't.
Were they too easy on them?
Yeah.
Not easy. How you holding up? Again, by saying we were too hard on people and too difficult or contentious.
I think you're, yeah.
All right, Jon Stewart, come back soon.
Oh, man, look at his
Jon Stewart, good of you
face.
to join us. Thank you very much. The book is America. A Citizens Guide to Democracy on them.
Yeah.
Not easy.
How you holding up?
Look
Again,
at
by
his
saying we were
face.
too hard on people and too difficult or contentious.
I think you're, yeah.
All right, Jon Stewart, come.
Oh, man. So, the title, now, see, because for a majority of the time, I thought that, Jon Stewart was going to win this. And not that it's like a competition, but he definitely was.
Wait, so you didn't even make up... Oh, so this is... Somebody uploaded this clip of Crossfire onto YouTube titled Tucker Carlson embarrasses Jon Stewart? Okay, well, sir, I apologize to you about the spelling mistake then. That's not your fault. Okay, whose show got canceled and whose show stayed? I mean, how do we measure embarrassment? Yeah, I mean, Jon Stewart definitely has a look there like, oh, I see what they did. I see what they did to me. But you got to keep in mind, I mean, Jon Stewart comes on somebody's show to shit talk them to their face, right? Like, already you have a dynamic there that takes balls. And the audience was clearly on his side the entire time, like the entire debate. And what, Tucker Carlson never looked like, oh shit. Like, to me, like this whole thing of, are you like this when you have dinner with people, John? Or do you just lecture them? Like, that to me is more of an admission of defeat and then just an admission of being embarrassed than like this look on Jon Stewart's face.
Had like a rebuttal or some type of something to say back to both these guys at the same time. He's basically going against both of them at the same time, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, that last question tripped him up because he himself answered the question, but in turn he pretty much outed himself as going too easy on the politician that he was interviewing, and that pretty much just caused a calamity in his head. He didn't know where to go from there, and then Tucker and the other guy on the show pretty much were like vultures and came in and finished the job. So you can see the look on his face like, oh man, I messed myself up right there. I set myself up for failure. Oh man, look at that face. Look at that face, man. But it happens to everybody. I was really hoping that he found a way out of the situation, but the last few seconds of the video, the title, I lived up to the titles.
Also, it's really easy to win a debate when you get to decide when it ends, right? Like, they said that thing to Jon Stewart. He didn't really have a chance to respond to them. And then they turned to the camera and said, all right, that's it. That's it, everybody. Go home. Shut the cameras off. Get rid of the fucking cameras right now before he has a chance to think. Again, I see why it seems like Jon Stewart is being a hypocrite there, but it goes back to the fact that he is not them. He is not a newscaster. He is a parody of a newscaster. So criticizing him for not being the one to ask hard questions, I mean, that's not his job. That's not his role in what's going on. And again, I would make the argument that he usually asks soft questions as a parody, right? Because they even showed him, like, he made fun of those other reporters who were asking the soft questions. The same person keeps calling me, and I think it's probably a mistake.
Description. That has been embarrassing. So that's about it for that, guys. Man, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All right.
Are we really ignoring the rest of the video? Like, it really just comes down to that 1 second. I get that it's the ending, but Jon Stewart pulverized both of these guys throughout the entire video. How could you even argue that? I mean, he got their own audience to turn on them. When Jon Stewart said that thing about the bow tie, like, the fucking laughter was like Tucker Carlson knew that he was being humiliated. And then you got this guy's comment section, which at least people are actually trying to make arguments themselves. Jon wants to be a political player without any doubt, but he wants to be a political player without any doubt, not a doubt in my mind, but uses the fact that they are a comedy show as an excuse. I mean, he's a political satirist, so yes, in that way he is a political player. He's not running for Congress, although he did lobby to provide funds for first responders. He did do that, so I guess he does want to be a political player in the absolute best way possible. I like Jon. Okay, I liked Jon when I was 15. I'm 35 now, and his shit is see-through. Again, the sad thing is that Jon Stewart was in an age of such a ridiculous time of news and journalism that just by virtue of calling people out, people started turning to him. And that's why people are saying, well, why don't you start acting more like a journalist then? Because he's not a journalist. You guys just start treating him like one because he's the only one who cuts through the bullshit. So, yeah. I mean, the entirety of that Crossfire interview was devastating for Tucker Carlson, at least at the time. Now he's successful on Fox, but it was definitely devastating for him at the time. It really hurt his credibility with mainstream America. And it's one of Jon Stewart's finest hours. And if we're going to focus on this last shot here and ignore the rest of it, well, history would disagree with you, my friend, because it definitely sided with Jon Stewart over Tucker Carlson here. So thanks, guys. Sorry, this was more of a just reaction to the Crossfire clip rather than a reaction to the reaction. But I still had fun. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll see you next time.